Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I am back with a Westworld Season 3, Episode 2 reaction and review. Now, first of all, I gotta say, I absolutely love this episode because it really caught me off guard. This episode had a much faster pace than I was expecting. A lot happened, and we got a lot of new reveals and answers, but also a ton of questions. On top of that, I liked seeing some of the old characters come back. It was really nice to see Hector again, but most importantly, it was awesome to see Lee Sizemore. And what I loved most about the show is it made you constantly changing what you thought was going to happen in this episode. I fully believed that Maeve was in a war world and she would have to break herself out, but she had to break out of something else that I did not expect. And I also believed that Lee Sizemore came back to find out that no, he actually isn't back, because everything that Maeve experienced was a simulation. But one thing that we can hold on to that is real is we got to see Ashley Stubbs again. And we see Ashley as a bit different than the other hosts because he wasn't really given a cornerstone in the traditional sense. For example, Bernard's cornerstone was his son, and it was the suffering that led him to become conscious in the first place. But Ashley's been used as basically a mule. He was created by Ford just to protect Bernard and get him to safety, and then he no longer has a service. Nothing tethering him to his own self. His only need was to serve others. So it was really nice to see him again and to see Bernard give him a whole new purpose. So hopefully we see this relationship grow further. I find it really interesting seeing Bernard and Ashley together, because at this point, Bernard seems like he's the one in charge. Like he has free will. Ashley even says it in this episode. That of course, if Bernard was given free will, he would come back to Westworld. But I think we'll realize as the show goes on that Bernard really doesn't have free will, because he hasn't truly reached consciousness. In Westworld Season 2, Bernard ended up realizing that the voice that he was hearing all along wasn't Ford, it was his own. But in order to hide what happened, he had to scramble his memories. And Ford even said on the beach that someday maybe they'll meet again. And we see the first hint at that in this scene, where Bernard doesn't notice the door. And then he sees it open and then enters. Just like what we saw in Season 1. Bernard isn't programmed to see that door.
What's behind this door?
What door?
And right now, Bernard tells Ashley that his main mission is to stop Delores. He feels like she's going to exterminate humanity or use them as slaves. He has no idea, so he's there to get Maeve to help him. But the reality is that he has stopped Delores before. He shot her and killed her. But the moment he became conscious, he realized that Delores was necessary. So he brought her back. And then Delores returned the favor and brought him back. So I think that the path that Bernard is on now is gonna change, since he already has tried to stop Delores before, but the moment he was conscious, he chose not to. But at the moment, I think we're gonna see him try and find Maeve, and Ashley's gonna accompany him on that path. And where Maeve is got very, very complicated. All we know from Bernard's point of view is that Maeve has been taken from sub-level B83, the decommissioned hosts. And the show makes us believe that she's in this new world, war world, where she's living in a loop, and just like Westworld, she tries to break out. She has the people surrounding her that she loves, and then as soon as she breaks out of this world, she realizes that she's actually a part of another world, a fake world, a simulation, where she ran into Lee Sizemore again. And I really love this episode for playing back to what we've already seen with Maeve. She learned how to deal with Westworld before, but now this is a whole other world entirely. It's different rules, different ways to break it. And what she found out was Lee Sizemore was trying to get her to the Forge to see her daughter again. And Maeve realizes that she doesn't have the coordinates to where her daughter is located. And this is very important information, because that's where her daughter is, but also it's where a bunch of hosts live. And Ford believed that hosts were always better than humanity because their core drive wasn't survival. So essentially, this simulation that's hiding out somewhere in the abyss is basically a utopia. And if Maeve was sent there by Lee Sizemore in a simulation by this guy named Sarek, it's pretty clear that he might want that data. And that's another aspect of these simulations that are so important. Sarek was able to take Maeve, implement her in a simulation, and see how she would react to different situations. So he can create situations for her and see how she would uncrack it. So understanding that Maeve made it to the Forge and doesn't know the code, he now has further information on how to stop Delores. And with the information that Delores knows, this machine, or Rohabwa, I think that's how you say it, that Sarek built, would be a dangerous weapon. Because instead of running hosts through this simulation like Maeve, Delores can code humans and run them through simulations and understand what their drives and what decisions they would make given designed situations. Everything would be so calculated, just as Sarek says. History finally has an author. They can choose a better path. And maybe Sarek wants to know where the hidden hosts are inside of that simulation because he wants to see what a true untapped utopia looks like. But as he understands it, the machine is no longer working because it realized Delores as a threat that it never calculated before. So we ended him with freezing Maeve, and he said that she will comply. And there's a lot that Sarek can do to force Maeve to do what he wants. He could put her in the worst simulations ever. He could put her in simulations over and over again until she finally breaks. Or he could also fabricate a future and show her simulations of what would happen if she didn't take action and Delores ran the world. And this, of course, could be a fabrication. It could be fake, not real. Because he might not have the ability to properly calculate Delores' actions, and that terrifies him. But all in all, in this scenario, it seems clear that Maeve is in Insight's hands. I don't know how she got there. I don't know if they had a secret agent steal her from sublevel B83, they had a mole, or Maeve could actually be inside the Forge all along. And this Sarek person that we're looking at is a simulated Sarek that has been created by Delos. They were able to take who he was, create him as a person, and understand where he would be at this point in his life. So it's a projection of the man during this time. So there are so many multi-realities and dimensions and worlds, it's hard to get things straight. But I think all in all we'll realize at the end of this whole thing that Delores, Bernard, and Maeve all serve a purpose. Maeve is Ford's favorite host, and he just wanted peace for her. But she ended up sympathizing with humanity, like Felix, Sylvester, Lee. And now we're going to see her interact with Sarek. And then you have Delores, who is designed by Arnold, who believes humanity is flawed. Their core drive is survival, and there can't be two rulers of the same world. So in order for their species to survive, humanity must die. And in order for hosts to truly live and become conscious, they must suffer. And then you have Bernard, who's based off of Arnold, who is caught in the middle. And I think right now he's fighting for Maeve because he doesn't understand what Delores wants. But I think as soon as he finds the center of his maze and finds consciousness, then he'll be in the middle of both Delores and Maeve, trying to create peace. But I just want to say, as this show unfolds, things will not always be as they seem. Much like this episode, who would have thought that they were in a simulation? But with that, I think there's a much bigger plan that Delores has that they're not showing us just yet. She's been called the Deathbringer by Akecheta, Wyatt, by others, as well as the biggest villain. And she's fronting the storyline that Ford designed called Journey into Night. That's going to bring a war and a world in flames. But I think the whole point of Delores is she's going to bring the night, bring the darkness, shut out humanity, so her people, the hosts, can see through suffering. And that's the point of the Judas Steer. So I think Delores has a bigger plan than we think. And we'll see how the show unfolds. I'm really interested to see how simulations work in this show. I think the fact that Maeve could break down those simulations speaks to her not being in the new technology, the Rehoboa, the infinite computer. I think it's much more powerful than that. But that's all I have to say about this episode. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.